This is not boding well. Oh, God. So, alright. Let's get the two bombshells out of the way right now. First and foremost, I prefer this episode in the uh, in the dub. And there's two big reasons for that. The first of which is, well, actually, I guess the main reason is all of the stuff to do with Mana. Just everything with Mana just feels better in the dub. Because, and again, it's kind of the other me thing shooting this one in the foot, right? Because they don't talk about the other Yugi as being, the Pharoh. They talk about him as being Yugi, which I suppose makes a degree of sense, but at the same time, it's just like, I mean, when you're talking to somebody in ancient Egyptian clothing, you should probably talk about them as if they were the Pharaoh, you know? You know, but I digress. So so we start, of course, with Kisara being attacked in the battleground in the underground arena. Seto then is just like interferes when it's clear that Kisara isn't going to be able. He's either incapable or unwilling to defend herself. Health. Ask even goes so far as to ask her name in the sub. So now Seto actually knows the girl's name. Cool. And and so he fights off those goons. He actually is efficient because he just destroys the arena, which sends the one dude plummeting. But of course, because the worm guy, the guy's worms can shoot out webs. Well, he's kind of safe for the moment until Kisara summons out her Ka, which is, of course, Blue Eyes, which I actually like. This should have been the episode entitled Birth of Blue Eyes, but I digress. Hell, actually, if you literally flip the names of the episodes around, and I feel like it would have worked better because the first part of this episode is focused on Kisara and her blue eyes and the white dragon immersion. So, shrug. But I digress. Akhenaten is completely evil at this point. He's just like, hey, we need to kill Kisara in order to take her power, and Seto's just like, fuck off! I do not want to be the Pharaoh. You've lost your goddamn mind. Please excuse me, you know. And then he just walks off because it's just like, fuck that. Because he looks at this and he goes, like, no, I am not taking over the throne just because as the Pharaoh is just missing. Like, fuck that shit. Which, credit where it's due, Seto. Edo, I do like that you have faith that Datem is alive. I do like that. I do. It's actually a nice touch. So, in the meantime, Yamabakura is basically told by Zorik to find the eighth key. Told by his other side, because the sub flat out spoils that Yamabakura is Zorik in this episode. Instead of making it a big reveal, they just casually mention it. I so prefer it in the dub because it's actually a spoiler in one of the parts of Village of Vengeance. Vengeance. I'm 99% sure. You know. But yeah. And then Yamabakura realizes that the eighth key is Atem's name. Name. The visuals make that nice and crystal clear. So then the gang get to the River Nile, where Mana is practicing her spells. Mana can see the gang because, as I mentioned last time, the fuck is consistency. Then Babasa, who is way more fucking annoying in the sub than he is in the dub. God damn, I can't stand Babasa in the sub. I know that seems weird because you would think Babasa would be more irritating in the dub, but no, in the sub he's just so fucking irritating because his entire this is literally Babasa's entire character in the sub. You ready for this? This food, 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 food. That's Babasa's entire character in the sub. There's no nuance to it. There's no anything. He's just a perpetual eater. The end. That sucks. That is hot garbage. Like, what the fuck? You know? Ugh. So then Tem, who's recovering in a cave, gets memories of his dad unlocked because they were locked in his heart, kind of thing. And so he kind of has a flashback of his father taking on responsibility, taking the blame for creating the Millennium Items, and says that he will take on all the punishment so that Atem doesn't have to. I like that. I do. Who? And Atem is remembering that sacrifice, which is good. Then he's woken up by Hassan. Who warns him that Zork is resurrecting. Acting as well. Oh, and the gang find him. Yay! All right. I literally don't have anything to say about this episode, really. As you can plainly tell by the fact that I am done already talking about the episode. Now, I am not somebody who will sit here and give you guys a 10-minute episode because that feels cheap. That to me feels like it would be a cop out, and I would be insulting you by doing that. I don't like insulting my audience, unlike this fucking show at times. So we're not going to do that. Instead, what I am going to go ahead and talk about is how I would restructure this arc. Because there's nothing really to talk about with this arc. With what actually happens in canon, right? So I figure it'd be better to just talk about what I feel this arc does wrong. To be honest with you, I kind of feel like instead of having Village of Vengeance be 2 episodes, Village of Vengeance being 5 episodes, and then we rush to this point, I almost feel like what should have happened is that we should have spent the first 3 to 4 episodes introducing and kind of establishing the priests. He's maybe plant the seeds of Bakura. You slowly kind of just trying to tear the court apart, kind of thing, and then just slowly picking the court apart. You don't even necessarily have to have Akhenaten not be mind controlled. You could keep that aspect, but instead of having 2 episodes where we have a fight against Bakura, 2 full episodes with a fight against Bakura, have that be 1 episode. Then we dive into the origin of the Millennium Items to kind of explain Akhenaten's crap. And then, and then just kind of have a few episodes where we explore Atem and his relationship to Mana, and why Mahad was so devoted to him, and stuff like that. Let's actually go into this, which is also why I feel like making this actual time travel rather than just a side dimension or whatever, would have worked better, right? This should have been ancient Egypt instead of just a mystical game board. Or spoilers. But I digress. I mean, the sub has been hinting at that for a while, so shrug, I guess. I feel like we should have been diving, especially the priests. We should have been diving into the priests more. And considering that you are basically flat out saying that Mana is Dark Magician Girl, we should have been diving into Mahad and Mana's characters, especially. Like, the three characters that this arc really should have been diving into are Mahad, Mana, and Seto. Those are the three that desperately needed to be dived into. Big time. And we're kind of doing that with Seto, but not really. We kind of did that with Mahad briefly, and then with Mana, she's just kind of there, and it's like, well, do something, you know? Oh, instead of giving us multiple scenes of Shada and Kareem trying to find Tem, do some world building, give us some character establishment, right? Isis has literally done fuck all. Shimon has done nothing past the intruder at all, even though he should be Tem's advisor, but oh man, like, just do something. This is also why I cannot sit here. This is also why I basically ripped season 2 to shreds as hard as I did. It. And I stand behind every word, every single syllable I fucking uttered. I could easily shave down the amount of fucking time spent on Battle City by at least 11 to 12 episodes. Those easily, and fill that with like different things that could help us flesh out Battle City a little bit. Because the problem, like the big problem that this arc and Battle City both ran into was we're focusing on stuff that I don't think we need to focus on. Instead of a failed battle against Bakura, just have a battle where Slifer forces him to retreat. You know? We don't really need Bakura thinking he's killed a him. You can still get him to have the Millennium Puzzle without a Tem being dead, or believed to be dead, and still still work with this. But whatever. I'm I don't know. I feel like this arc just kind of fell apart. And I know part of that is because Kazuki Takahashi's health was failing him. So a lot of the failures of this arc were kind of all over the place. It's, you know. Oh, which I mean was also not helped by the fact that Millennium World in general was 66 was only 60 it was 66 chapters, and they're trying to cram that into 26 episodes, which I mean is doable, but I almost feel like if I read through Millennium World, which I am intending to do at some point, um I almost feel like I would probably have uh I almost feel like I would probably enjoy it in the manga more, outside of the ceremony duel, of course, but which I'm going to be reading for the sake of the final duel. But yeah, this was kind of just a giant nothing burger. I hate to say that so casually, but the past few episodes have been giant nothing burgers, with the exception of the Millennium Item Creation episode. And I hate to say that, but I mean, I got to be honest. I and what's worse is that I do actually feel like the last 3 videos have all sucked. And when I say sucked, I mean like, oh my god. I actually feel like I am gypping you guys with how short these videos are. Because again, what the hell do I even say about this individual episode? We could have had this episode explore Mana. Like maybe have the instead of maybe do that, and then have the rest of the episode just be focused on Mana Mana's stuff. Like, have an entire episode. I almost feel like this. You could have trimmed down Village of Vengeance a little bit. We'll see how Village of Vengeance is pacing is, because again, 5 episodes. Ugh. this series has not been good with 5-parters. Let's just be real there. I feel like this one, I might be saying, oh, you could have easily trimmed this with Village of Vengeance, but we'll see. But ooh boy, this episode was just a giant nothing burger. Never mind the fact that it's yet another spoil the surprise, with the subtitle being "The Pharoh is alive." Ugh. I'm sorry for the short one again this week. On the plus side, hopefully Village of Vengeance will actually give us something to talk about out next week, and then we can move on from there. But yeah. I am not liking this. I suppose I don't like this section of the arc. Then again, I've never liked this section of the arc, admittedly. Like, basically from Makings of a Magician on, I don't remember caring about this arc too much. And well, Birth of Blue Eyes definitely showed why. And then we have basically just had a bunch of not so great episodes. I mean, we haven't had terrible episodes, so I suppose that's something, but I almost feel like I would have liked it more if they were terrible, because then I could talk about all the mistakes that were being made. But they're not terrible, so here we are. I hate this episode. I hate these episodes, admittedly. This is an average episode, but at the same time, yeah, I think this is probably going on my skip list. Like, oops, In Search of the King. All right, let's skip that one. Probably Reversal of Fortune too. I mean, after when Bakura starts rewinding time, just like, okay, because no point, but whatever. I also do not remember Village of Vengeance all that fondly either, but I suppose we will find all of that out next time. So I'm just gonna chop off this one, and because I've been trying to ramble to get this up to a decent length, but otherwise, yeah, no, I hated this episode. I had nothing to talk about, so I apologize for having nothing to talk about. Hopefully next week we will have something better. Until then, Blue Wolf Alex of the Lore Walkers signing out. Have a good one. Stay tuned.